The NBA world is full of very interesting takes. And when I say interesting, I really mean like dog shit takes. But most of the time, you're hearing these takes from guys like Stephen A. Smith, or maybe even my YouTube channel. Shit, it could even be from people that you know in real life, like coworkers, friends, or family members. I once had an Uber driver that said LeBron James wasn't the GOAT because he did Space Jam 2.
Emulate Jordan so he could eventually say, I'm the greatest. They told him no to Space Jam. He bought the whole production and created Space Jams 2. Like, this guy is disgusting. He's disgusting.
Yeah, there's some interesting people out there for sure. But the point is, when you hear these crazy takes, a lot of the time it doesn't come from NBA general managers. But just a couple of days ago, Daryl Morey spoke about the 2020 NBA bubble finals, or I guess entire playoffs. And I guess it really brought up the conversation again of, is the Lakers championship valid, or was that a real championship run? Now, before I respond to that and get into my own opinion and go over some other things, we should actually read the full Daryl Morey quote. Here he goes, saying, had the Rockets won the title, which I want to make it really clear if you're new to basketball, at this time Daryl Morey was the GM for the Rockets. Right now he's the GM for the 76ers, but at the time he was all Houston. Okay, just wanted to get that there. Anyways, had the Rockets won the title, I absolutely would have celebrated it as legitimate, knowing the immense effort and resilience required. Yet everyone I speak to around the league privately agrees that it doesn't truly hold up as a genuine championship. Perhaps the lasting legacy of the NBA bubble is that the NBA should be proud of its leadership at both the beginning and end of the pandemic, even though the champion will forever be marked by an asterisk. Now, if you don't like the Lakers, or you have gone into this video, with your own idea on the Lakers championship and whether or not it was real, you are either screaming at your monitor or TV, whatever, saying that Daryl Morey is a liar. Wait, that sounds really familiar.
Daryl Morey is a liar.
Or you look at this and say, wow, Daryl Morey is right. This championship did not count. Even other people around the league agree with me. The NBA bubble championship is complete bullshit. And I guess this is the point where you have to come up with, what side do you stand on, right? Do you think the NBA bubble championship is real, or do you think it was pretty fraudulent? And listen, obviously I was not there. I was not one of the players on the court. I was not one of the reporters there to see the behind the scenes of everything happening on a day-to-day. The most in-depth look I got at the NBA bubble was through JaVale McGee and Matisse Thybulle vlogs, which, hey, real ones know about those vlogs. But the point is, as NBA fans, or even some reporters as well, we will never actually know about if the NBA bubble was hard or if it was easy, because not only do actual players have their own different experiences, but at the same time we were all kicking it at home, right? We had nothing else going on. It was just a fun thing to watch. It was the only live sports event happening. So at the end of the day, my opinion on this really doesn't hold any weight whatsoever, right? But that being said, I still very strongly disagree with what Daryl Morey has said about this championship. This original quote has come from an article by The Athletic, where they actually asked a lot of other reporters and people who were there in the bubble about their experience, right? What do they think about, that entire time in NBA history? And almost everybody else who was asked about the actual championship and the whole asterisk, almost everybody else said that it was a very legit, if not one of the hardest NBA championships to win. And I think a lot of that boils down to just the fact that you were kind of in your own hotel room. You didn't have your family and friends there, at least until kind of later on in the playoffs, where you got to bring one family member into the bubble with you. It is a lockdown scenario where all you do is get up, get tested, go train, maybe go to the, Disney pond or whatever, and then you play a game. There was nothing else. And some people might think, well, the fact that there was no distractions there, right? Like no crowd, no traveling, whatever, that is actually, more of a reasoning as to why this championship shouldn't count. And I will say the no traveling thing is a fair argument to make. You can argue that a guy like LeBron James, who is older, would have been affected by the traveling, going across the states nonstop, going, different home games or whatever. But almost everything else, when it comes to having no fans or not playing in an actual arena, I feel like that made the entire thing harder. Devin Booker was quoted as saying that it was a shooter's gym. It was easier to shoot in that arena. If I'm not mistaken, everybody around the league had a higher three-point percentage when they got into the bubble because the depth perception was different. It was just like you're shooting around with your buds. And so if everybody is playing at a heightened version of their game, does that not make it a lot harder to play in? Now, I do also want to say, just in Daryl Morey's defense here, he kind of backtracked on his own statement just a day later. After he saw that everybody was, clowning him for saying that quote, he basically said, "I'm frustrated. Of course, I respect that title. I defend it to people all the time. It's the thing I want most." And then he also says, "I could see why you would have taken it that way, and that would have made me mad too." So you defend it all around the league, but everybody that you talk to also shits on it, and you don't respect it, but you would if the Rockets win. Like, does anyone know what Daryl Morey is trying to fucking say? It's really funny as well, because I do think a lot of the people that actually discredit this Lakers championship are almost in the same exact situation as Daryl Morey, where had the Rockets won the chip, right? James Harden and Westbrook get a ring. I do feel like they would have gotten a lot more credit and respect than what the Lakers got. It's kind of the same thing with the Miami Heat, right? There were all these pictures and videos of Jimmy Butler being tired and exhausted, just trying to bring his team to win this ring. I swear on everything, if the Miami Heat won that championship and Jimmy Butler got Finals MVP, nobody would be saying that it doesn't count. Maybe besides Lakers fans. They would definitely be talking like that. And honestly, one of my last points that I have towards the bubble being a very hard time in NBA history for players and, the championship really being valid. If things were so easy and so sweet and everybody was just frolicking along in the Disney flowers, why would the Clippers essentially quit while being up 3-1? The only reason why the Clippers lost that series is because they wanted to go home. They did not like the bubble conditions. They were not built for it. Their mental was done. And so obviously you have some guys who will say the bubble is fine, right? Steven Adams, it's not Syria, whatever, right? It is true.
Let's be clear, mate. This is not Syria, mate. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that hard. It's not that difficult, mate. We're living in a bloody resort.
But for some other guys and reporters as well, it was the hardest thing they have ever done. So yeah, I know this topic is so outdated and has been kind of ran into the ground for some time now. But with Daryl Morey bringing it back up, and I feel like, having a lot of time since the bubble happened, we have a bit more clarity from what that time actually looked like. And I do want to pop this up real quick here. This is a poll from before the actual bubble championship. Will you consider this year's NBA Finals to be completely valid? 81% of people said yes. And you can also see kind of the difference in fan base voting as well as you go down. But that being said, whether or not you think the NBA Finals in 2020, whether you think that championship was legit, the Lakers actually deserved it, or, it was a real ring, whatever the hell, it really doesn't matter. I mean, I would love to hear what you guys think down in the comments below. I read and respond to everybody, but at the end of the day, they lifted the damn trophy. Their name is etched in history. Like, you can't argue with it. Whether you're Daryl Morey or just a fan of the NBA, the Lakers won the 2020 championship. Hopefully you guys all enjoyed. Once again, I know this is kind of a rundown story, but I really enjoyed diving back into it. I love the bubble. It was a crazy time in the league history. And like I said, let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. I'm always down there reading what you guys say and responding. Even if you disagree, let me know, okay? Let me hear it down there. I will see you guys all in the next one. Later.